Okay, so in the spirit of closing the timeline, this is how I summarize my take-home from Cecilia's talk. Low sugar concentration at the end of period 4. Okay, we have some speculation that it could be due to the imbalance between the ratio leaf towards fruit skewed towards fruit. Many sites with early sugar loading stop and many blockages. When looking a little bit more at the data and at the physiognomy of the site, often those sites were the high vigor sites, which is why I speculate that the reason why sugar loading happened either at such a slow rate or stopped is strongly linked with the susceptibility to cavitation. Cavitation would have occurred in response to, number one, the higher frequency of heat waves, and number two, the higher leaf areas. And as we were expecting, we see nice maturation profile still in a great number of sites, but those sites in general contribute to weaker vigor sites with lower leaf area, or sites where the topography, north-facing slopes, or the presence of a lake nearby played a role at buffering the severity of the heat wave, at degrading the photosynthetic functions of the plant. So the next question is, since sugars are signaling molecules for anthocyanins, we know that it's only after sugar loading has peaked that we will observe the peak of color. Okay, but what does it mean in terms of phenolic maturity to have had trajectories of sugar loading that in many instances were so difficult? Well, we can expect to observe slow or stopped color accumulation in some sites, particularly the ones in high vigor sites where we have seen an extremely low ability to load sugar. We could also expect, since it takes more time to load sugar, that it's going to take even more time for the peak of color to be reached. Furthermore, if there has been some disorder during sugar loading periods, we may expect those disorders to carry over in terms of anthocyanin biosynthesis. And last, again, due to the high severity of heat waves during period 5, we expect a higher susceptibility to color degradation, either after the peak of color has been reached or while color is accumulating. So in order to summarize that, I made the next two slides to combine two very different methods. The first method aims at combining sugar loading. So how do the flux of primary metabolites happens? Is it stopping early? Is it stopping late? And then what we did, on many sites, we had the mean to look at the physical concentration of color into the berry skin. We do that by blasting light and exciting some compounds in the berry cell and then getting their molecular signature back. So I'm not going to speak about extractability. I'm just looking at the physical process of color accumulation. What you extract in the wine is another story. But it's interesting because it gives us some time tracer to quantify the pace at which ripening occurs. And here is what we had in 16, 17, and 18. You see the pale green symbolizes a relative short period 2 in 16, followed by a relatively larger period 3. Then we had a sugar loading phase, period 4 in orange, that statistically stopped on August 18. And then we had to wait an extra 23 days to reach the statistical point when color accumulation peaked. And then harvest, most of the time, was after September 10. 2017, a long period 2, relatively short period 3 compared to 2016, and a sugar loading phase that happened until August 22, and then 29 days later, the peak of color. 2018, we had a slightly longer period 2. We had a period 3. Sugar loading ended in August 30, and the peak of color was statistically observed on September 28. Putting that in perspective, you see 2019, no period 3, a period of sugar loading that's awfully short, and this big brownish zone during which I couldn't tease out the very statistical date when sugar loading happened, because we had those slow starters, we had those vineyards that blocked during their sugar loading phase, and we had those awesomely good performers as well. So the awesomely good performers were more leaning towards the end of August, the beginning of September, and we had all the groups of disturbed ripening profiles that showed some massive slowdown in terms of sugar loading at around August 20, August 22nd. And then when tracing the color accumulation rate, on the good sides, we saw a peaking of the color, physical accumulation of color, around the end of September, the beginning of October. But in many sites, we just saw an ever-increasing accumulation of color until very late in the season. And we know why. It's because sugar loading started later. So it's a year where, again, we will have greater discrepancies between sites. We will have sites that do a beautiful and smooth, uneventful sugar loading, followed by a peak of color around the end of September, beginning of October. And we know that we will leave an extra days after the peak of color, thinking more in terms of how those days are going to affect my extractability. But we will also have this wider window causing more heterogeneity, not only between sites, but also within the same vineyards. We should observe a greater disparities between berry size within the same cluster, between cluster coloration rates, and that is all inherited from this lack of period 3 and this very long-lasting period 2 in 2019. So those, to me, were the main take-homes from this 2019 vintage, and hopefully we can build onto that if a similar season is around the corner. What would I personally like to share with you is that low vigor sites, it has the potential to be a high-quality vintage. We have objective reasons to say that. It's because improved vineyard balance is likely to occur in those weak vigor sites. More vigor, so a better balance between energy allocated to the leaf and energy allocated to the fruit. Smaller root reservoir means natural ability to reduce the transpiring leaf area size, meaning also less disease pressure. And also because we have a smaller root reservoir, chances of having a period 3 pre-veraison are higher, which is good overall for the biosynthesis of flavonoids. High vigor sites, a more challenging vintage. It's actually very frequent in Bordeaux to have no period 3. So this is why I called it a Bordeaux-like vintage, but with heat waves. So why is it Bordeaux-like? Because we have no period 3. Why is it bearing the footprint of heat waves? Because photosynthesis and sugar loading are disrupted by a combination of both root water shortage and heat wave during period 4 and period 5. Color accumulation happens late, like we also see in Bordeaux, and the peak of color is not always reached due to the delay in sugar loading plus the disruption caused by atmospheric pressure. And the last thing is expect a strong terroir variations in 2019. Site-specific factors such as the topography, low soil water holding capacity, the way the leaf protective layers around the food zone have been manipulated, and whether or not you have misters to reduce the severity of vapor pressure deficit. All those factors will have a huge role in 2019 and explain why we expect such a discrepancies in terms of wine quality. Why? Because all those factors will reduce exposure to extreme stresses coming from the sun or from the temperature. Most strategic vineyard observation in 2019, in general, no need to irrigate Privée-Raison, except sites with small root reservoir. Optimize water management during P4 and P5 is really what we should focus on, and thankfully we'll have our next talk talking about that. And also being better at teasing apart symptoms that are due to lack of soil moisture from symptoms that are due to lack of air moisture. In one hand, we have things that can be fixed with irrigation. In the other hand, when it's heat wave, we have things that actually putting more water on won't help, that actually could even be detrimental. And Beth Forrestal is going to speak about that in a minute. So some competitive farming strategies for vintages like 2019 resides in a good ability to manipulate misters and a good ability to manipulate the timing and the intensity of canopy manipulation. So before I leave, I just wanted to see, okay, with all of that, what is in the crystal ball? How can we leverage this information to predict a little bit 2020? Well, we have the visions from Greg Jones, and we have what we know from those recent results linking period 2 last year with current year yield. No water and no nitrogen deficit during period 2 in 2019. We know that those conditions should be conducive to a higher bud fertility potential for 2020. But we still need to moderate these expectations based on the conditions around set. And also we need to be on the watch for a putative risk of overcropping if we have some drought, as Greg was hinting at, during leaf area development. So it's all going to depend upon the timing of those rain. Are they going to fall in period 1 or are they going to fall in period 2? And that's going to shift our appreciation of the ratio between a high bud fertility and a high leaf area development. And from Greg, what I get is that it seems to be a year where the focus during period 2 and 3 will be on leaf area and balancing the vineyard in terms of leaf to fruit ratio. So developing better means of assessing early the impact of crop load reduction versus leaf area size reduction. It's maybe sometimes we are fooling ourselves into thinking that removing crop is going to help when in fact we should be more impactful by removing leaves. Not every year will be like that, but it might be that it could have been a good strategic insight to gain from 2019. And assess the contribution of high crop load versus low crop load at revisiting your irrigation management strategy in period 4 and 5. And if it is drought related, think in terms of irrigation. If it is heat wave, think in terms of misters and transpiring leaf area reduction. Think in terms also of protecting the leaves. But do not think that over-irrigation will combat heat waves. And for that, I thought that the best was to invite Beth to share with us her findings on how different irrigation strategies can help us mitigating the pressure of the environment on vine water status, food composition, if 2020 is similar to 2019. So Beth, thank you for being with us today, and I'm happy to invite you to share your results.